Hi everyone, welcome. I'm down here in my wormery preparing to check in on the population of worms that I refer to as my mixed red worms. It's a common mix of worms which includes red wigglers, European nightcrawlers, and Indian blue worms. They used to be my youngest system, which traditionally always occupies far right, as well as eventually getting promoted to the far left as it gets older and older and new systems come online that are younger. Last time we checked in on these little guys, the mixed red worms, they were the youngest, but now I've got a couple new bins that were launched since the last time we checked in on these guys 14 days ago. It's interesting, 14 days has become the standard in this bin for check-ins, because every interval between feedings has been 14 so far, as is today. So we're going to get this little guy up on the shelf and check out how they're doing. Oh yeah, this is the interesting place where we're doing twine, composting of twine. So let's get started. Alright, I see you. I see the little flying insect over there, which reminds me that this is the place where we did observe a couple flying insects. And even when we turned over, there's another one. There's another one. I forget, there was even a point where we observed a whole bunch at once, and maybe we're not seeing quite so many upon our arrival, but I definitely see a couple. So let me just see if I can grab this little worm and piece of paper off the top cover. Hopefully whatever worms are on there remain there, if there are any, but I think I got, the only one I spotted was this one, so I think I got them. So this is my pulverized mosquito dunks. So I think you could buy them in bits. I think you could buy them in those little donut-shaped things, and I buy the donut-shaped ones, and I throw one into the little personal blender. This might not have even been an entire mosquito dunks. This might have only been half of one. And I guess what I'm putting in probably amounts to a great deal more than I need, because I mean, the whole idea is that a solution of the stuff is sufficient to do the job, then putting the stuff in even before it's had a chance to dissolve into water, it would have to be stronger. So I wonder how long it'll take for these two mating worms to uncouple from each other. And I mean, I kind of feel bad causing that, but I think one way or another it was going to happen, since they're right there out on the surface. Once I removed our plastic covered cardboard topping, the worms were exposed to a lot of bright light from overhead, and I mean, just during that couple of minutes of me talking, the worms out on the surface have for the most part gone down. And here too, another pair of mating worms. Okay, yeah, I mean, from the previous video, I'm reminded now we even encountered a couple pairs of mating worms last time we checked in on these guys. So that's always nice to see. So here, I think this is an example of the how thick the rope is, or the twine string rope, whatever. I mean, this is the twine that I usually use out in my garden for like binding up trash or recyclables or whatever, things like that. But I got my hands on a whole bunch of this really thick twine, as well as some fragments of thinner bits too. So I had an assortment of different twine scraps of various sizes, which was the, for large part, the foundation of this system, as far as the bedding that the worms have been given to occupy. Or, well, I guess ultimately to consume. That's the main point here, right? So, I guess the weird thing about this system is that you can't really dig down, because if you do try to do that, you're immediately faced with twine, rope, just everywhere, you know? It doesn't just give way, allow you to dive down. You eventually get stopped at some point. So there is a distinct hole in the middle that we've been using to feed. So why don't we just excavate it, make ourselves the room we need to place in today's, meal. Alright, so I catapulted the contents of what was in the hole out. And I guess tomatoes been in a lot of my feedings lately. Over the past few days, I recall bumping into bits and pieces of tomato, and I guess most of what I'm going to start encountering eventually is just pieces of the twine. and some other stuff. I think I might have seen some pepper stems and other things. And oh, look at that. Okay, we've got a few large objects here, and I can see right here on this pumpkin stem right there, that little tiny green thing. That's the worm cocoon. As to which type of worm left that cocoon, I have no clue. Like I said, I got European night crawlers, Indian blue worms, and red wigglers occupying this thing. And I really couldn't even tell the worms apart so easily, let alone trying to tell apart the cocoons that they leave behind. So I really like this material as bedding. The worms seem to like it too. Almost anywhere I go in this bin, I'm finding good amounts of moisture, a lot of worms hanging around. So now I was a little sketchy, you know. I was uncertain of this material as a worm bin bedding. So I really wanted to make sure dryness doesn't become an issue here. I sort of envision this material as not being able to just eventually just kind of collapse onto itself. I somehow imagined just little air pockets and just a persistent tendency to dry out, you know, to a dangerous level that would be drier than what the worms can survive in. So that's kind of what worried me a little bit there. But yeah, this system has definitely dispelled my concerns. It just has such a nice moisture content. I mean, for that matter, at the very beginning, I was able to see standing water down here. I was, you know, just sort of taking that precaution that said, you know, if the material up high starts to dry, but, you know, I need the worms to remain hydrated, whatever. In the beginning, I'm going to run the system with standing water, just in case. So, I've got my prepared bedding here, and I've also got a few napkins I'd like to do away with. So we're going to combine all these old things, give these pumpkin stems the chance to continue down there, and start dropping in bits and pieces of what I've got for them. Here's some paper towel, and I'm thinking between my prepared bedding and a few chunks of paper towel, these wormies should be pretty content with this feeding. Banana peel, I'm going to sprinkle a little bit of pulverized eggshell grit onto that, and just start alternating the various bedding bits and foods that we drop in here. Looks like we got some more tomato for them, some really spoiled lettuce, some pepper that was okay until it was just, I guess it was in a portion of the refrigerator section that gets too cold and it froze. And as you know, you can't eat frozen and thawed pepper. It's just not the same anymore. And you know, let's keep working this stuff. You know, every time we lay down some food and then we include some of the material we'd like to see them break down for us, I think it just increases the likelihood of that happening. Just because in their pursuit of all the yummy foods, they're going to invariably be on and around this material, which I guess is starting out as more bedding, but ultimately also just becomes more food for them. Alright. Yeah, we could just leave it like that at this point, I guess, you know? I mean, there's no real rules you have to abide by, per se. So, I think before we part ways with these little guys, we're going to keep doing this, I think, every check-in, because I found this so fascinating how I could just take this whole tangled pile of rope and lift it up and get a nice view of what's happening right there at the lowest levels. And there's always lots of worms down there, lots of moisture, and the whole thing is still holding together. I guess at some point, once this rope gets broken down, I'll no longer be able to do it this way, where the material just sort of grasps onto itself and lets me lift it up like a mattress. But I guess that was the whole idea, right? Just to try something different, see what it's like. And I guess it's novel, definitely interesting. And so many worms really taking advantage of this lovely environment that we've created for them. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I mean, if I had to give someone advice on composting twine with their worms, I would say do it. Because to me, like, the worms really like it. Naturally, your mileage will vary. Is that the saying? Everyone's different, so I'm not guaranteeing that your worms will like it the way mine do, but mine definitely seem to like it. Yeah, you know, at this point we would normally maybe drape out a piece of newspaper, some sort of top covering. I don't think it's all that important. We'll just bring back this plastic. At this point, sometimes you could see where wormies had sort of gotten stranded, but then hopefully they'll, there we go, that's exactly what I was hoping for, that they would find a spot somewhere nearby that they can crawl in under and feel safe, where it's dark. This little guy was smart enough to do exactly that, so good on him. But I think, other than me needing to take care of a few things, getting them cleaned up and put away, I think we're done here. But before I go, let me just really quickly say thank you. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. That's always really appreciated. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. That's very much appreciated as well. All right, everyone, have a great day. Thanks so much for watching. Bye now.